All right, we're going to get going here. First up is House File 1504.
Now we can start.
Oh, now we can start. All right, let me start over. Mr. Norris, I will move House File 1504 to be laid over for possible inclusion in the Tax Division report. There is no amendment, and so to your bill, my friend.
All right. Well, thank you, Chair Liz Lagarde, members of the committee. It's great to be in front of the Property Tax Division. Members, if you're like me, I'm guessing that you've heard a familiar refrain from your constituents lately, and it's that property taxes are skyrocketing. I'm hearing it especially from our seniors. And Mr. Chair, on the point of seniors, if you'll give me just a moment to do a personal point of privilege, it's actually my grandmother's 90th birthday today. I can't be down there in New Albany, Indiana with them to celebrate because I'm doing the people's work, but I figure I can at least give her a shout out on TV. So happy 90th, Grammy. This property tax issue is a serious one because it is something that is really, in a lot of times, threatening people from the ability to stay in their homes. And I know that the Property Tax Division has been taking a close look at this issue, and I'm grateful that you have been. And how can we reduce the property tax burden on our homeowners? And I think House File 1504 just brings another tool to the table for you. Minnesota offers some tax relief for homesteaded property through the homestead market value exclusion. Put simply, it allows homeowners of homesteads under a certain market value to exclude a portion of the home's market value from its value for property tax calculations. The problem is that home values have jumped significantly in recent years, while the exclusion thresholds have remained static. For example, in my home county of Anoka, the average home value from 2014 to 2021 jumped 62%. And that's even before the significant jumps we've seen in 2022. So because of the homestead market value exclusion hasn't changed since 2011, as home values have recently risen much more rapidly than for other classes of properties, homeowners in many areas have shouldered a disproportionate increase, both because of those rising market values and because the rising values accelerate the loss of the benefit of the market value exclusion. So this bill simply restores some of the originally intended homeowner property tax relief by increasing the thresholds to account for at least some of that growth that we've seen in home values since the thresholds were set in 2011. It aims to achieve that property tax relief by addressing the tax base and is designed to work in conjunction with the other bills that you've heard that achieve general levy reduction through state aids and increased direct property tax refunds. So with that, Chair Liz Lagarde, I will turn it over to my testifiers to provide some additional detail.
Okay, thank you. I believe we have Matt and Randy. If you want to state your name and who you're with, and then proceed.
Mr. Chair and members, thank you, Matt Mossman with the Minnesota Intercounty Association in support of House File 1504. Again, Representative Norris, we want to thank for carrying this legislation and bringing this issue forward again this year. And the author really said it quite well. The property tax is incredibly complex. And because of that, Minnesota, related to that, has a long history of comprehensive tax relief, addressing issues in the tax base, addressing issues with levy reduction in terms of state aids, and direct property tax relief to homeowners and renters, as has been discussed. And our association supports all of those. This bill really goes to helping to moderate the tax base for homeowners and support housing stability through this tool, the market value exclusion, which was established in 2011, but has really lost its effectiveness in terms of helping to mitigate homeowner property taxes as it's greatly declined. Property tax values have increased depending upon exactly your starting date, but basically about 90% in the last 10 years, where the thresholds for the exclusion have remained static. Oh, no. So the way the exclusion works under current law is that 40% of the first $76,000 in value is excluded from the tax for that homestead. And so that amounts to about $30,400, or does amount to $30,400 for $76,000. And then it phases out at 9% of the value that is above $76,000 goes away. So eventually at $413,800, you get no exclusion. This bill simply adjusts upward somewhat those thresholds to take into account that home values, or recognize that home values have substantially increased in that time, as you see in the bill, to the maximum exclusion occurring at $80,300 in value. That means homes that are valued at that maximum exclusion rate will get proportionately the greater benefit out of this adjustment to the exclusion rate, and less at the phase-out range. Just to give a few examples of how this credit or exclusion has been declining in its effectiveness over time. In 2012, when this exclusion was first put into law, 5.2% of all estimated market value was excluded from the tax base because of this exclusion. That's now less than 2.5% of the today of the market value for total estimated market values excluded. That certainly has accelerated in this last year with an average increase of 17.2% in home values. And it's also playing out in the amount of tax proportionately that is being paid across the state by homeowners. Homeowners paid a little under 43% of total taxes in the state, property taxes. In 2012, when this exclusion came into place, it's now just under 46%. It takes a lot of incremental shift on the homeowners to increase from basically 3% of the total tax base being now paid by homeowners. And that's has real implications. With me today is Randy Schreifels, the Auditor Treasurer from Stearns County, just to give a little bit of a more mathematical example of how it plays out in one county.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
I'm Randy Schreifels, the Stearns County Auditor Treasurer. And I'm going to go over the sheet that was handed out during the break. The first page I'll go over is the one with the two larger graphs. And I'm not going to go over all the numbers, so kind of focus on the left side and the far right side. So the top chart is the chart that I went over during our TNT meetings. So this is to show the tax effect of the levy increase and the value changes in Stearns County for the county tax only. So as you can see on the left side, residential homestead went up on an average 21% in Stearns County, and then the other property types, you can see that on the left also. And then on the far right side is the change in taxes, and you can see the residential change, varies from 9 to 17%. And then the other ones, the apartments, ag, and commercial had a reduction. And then the bottom chart is applying this bill, House File 1504, to that same number. So what would happen? So on the right side, instead of things going up, 16.89%, they would only go up 14.8%. So it would be taking off some of that increase, and then the other ones would see a lower reduction. And then on the back page, this top chart is for all county taxes. So for the range between the 80,000 and the 237,000, the change per parcel would be $22 for those that are homestead market value. And you can see the ones with the lower value are getting the more of the benefit, because obviously their tax bill is lower and they'll see a larger percentage or decrease. The bottom one is the comparison of where the average home values were when this started in 2012 at $138,000 to now the average being $230,000, and the exclusion that was highlighted in green was just over 17%, and now that exclusion's to about 7%. So.
Thank you. Beth Kadoon? Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Beth Gadoon. I represent the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, an organization of about 6,300 businesses across the state of Minnesota. As this committee looks at various property tax proposals, I want to mention our concerns with tax shifting that can occur. Because as you know, the property tax system is very intertwined. If you provide breaks to one taxpayer, it will shift burdens to others. And as you look to provide relief to homeowners and renters, we believe the better approach is relief through some of our current property tax refund programs, as you've heard in the committee earlier today. The proposal by Representative Norris has a fairly modest shift to property taxes, as is shown in the property tax runs, which I really do appreciate the staff providing, because we don't always see those. As I said, the shift's fairly modest. It would increase the market value exclusion statewide by another $2.4 billion, resulting in a tax shift of about $11 million onto commercial, industrial, non-homestead, and apartments statewide. As I mentioned, at this level, the shift is not as concerning. However, if this proposal gets expanded, or when you look at other property tax provisions along with that, we urge you to keep in mind the property tax increases that might occur to other properties. Minnesota already imposes a fairly high cost of doing business, and as this is a top concern for our members, as it imposes headwinds to our ability to invest in Minnesota and grow our economy. So we would encourage the committee to look at other offsets that could occur, and one way to do that for the business community is to reduce the state business property tax levy. There was a handout provided that's from the Minnesota Chamber and the United for Jobs Coalition that explains kind of the property tax levy, how we compare with other states. Just for example, businesses have about 12% of the market value, but pay about 28% of the tax because of the class rate, where we have a higher class rate as well as the state levy. So we encourage you to look at those offsets and, as I said, mention just keep in mind any of those property tax shifts that may be occurring. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, open it up for discussion. Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Rep. Norris, or Vice Chair Norris, for carrying this very important bill. I know that Chair, well, not Chair, but I know that Rep. Wolgamott, has the other bill that would also be one of the tools in the toolbox that we have to support a lot of our seniors who this issue is affecting greatly. And so I just, because we didn't make the connection clear earlier, I want to make sure that I just make clear for the record that this is something important that we think we should, use taxpayer dollars to do, because, in the long run, when we think about the studies that were referenced during the presentation of Rep. Wolgamott's bill, I think seniors who are able to stay in their homes actually have better health outcomes, and that, if you're not convinced this is a good thing to do, is actually really big cost savings to our entire structure. And so I want to make it clear that when we use taxpayer dollars for programs like this, it's because it's a good thing to do, but also it's a smart thing to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Chair Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just briefly wanted to mention, because the comparison between commercial, industrial, and homestead property was brought up, that because of the chair's, a bill that was carried by the chair in an effort that was led by him, in 2021, the exemption for commercial industrial property, which is essentially kind of the CI equivalent to what we're discussing today, went up 50% from 100,000 to 150,000. And so I thank Representative Norris for bringing this effort forward so that we can align some of that with the preferential treatment that we've given to those CI properties in terms of that exemption. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I mean, if you're going to give me credit, I guess I'll take it. Closing comments.
Thanks, Chair Lissegard.
Did you want something, Representative?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. I agree with when you monkey with tax rates, you usually shift it to somebody else. And I thought I heard somebody say that the ag land would decrease in tax rates under this plan, and I'm wondering how that can be.
Representative Swanson.
Mr. Chair and Representative Anderson, so that the homestead market value exclusion applies to both residential homestead properties and the portion of agricultural homesteads that consist of the house, garage, and surrounding 1 acre. Egg homesteads with a house on it, a residence on it would, the HGA portion of that property would receive the benefit from the increased exclusion.
Thank you. And I did just give you a demotion. I called you a representative, my friend. You just lost half your salary. But anyway, closing comments.
Thanks, Chair Lislegard, and I appreciate the members of the committee raising how important this issue really is. This is about helping keep people in their homes, and I appreciate the Property Tax Division's laser focus on the issue of property tax relief, and I hope that House File 1504 can be another tool in your toolbox as you go about your work of getting this important relief to our citizens all across Minnesota. So thank you.
Thank you, and nicely done. Chair renews his motion that House File 1504 be laid over for possible inclusion in the Property Tax Division report. Okay, next we have House File 700. Representative Youakim. I will move that House File 700 be laid over for possible inclusion in the Property Tax Division report. There is no amendments, so to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for allowing me to go on your 1 o'clock portion here. And I also want to thank Representative Norris, who went before me to do another important tool in the toolbox, was fixing that exclusion on the front end, because I'm sure all of you that own homes have seen that homestead credit exclusion decrease rapidly over the last few years as housing prices have increased, and that exemption hasn't been changed for quite a while, and it's in desperate need. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and then on to House File 700 today, which is also another tool in the toolbox. This bill adjusts the targeted property tax cut program that was created in 1980. There's a House Research Department brief in your packet that goes over the history of the program. According to the brief, this program was designed to partially protect all homeowners, regardless of income, from a large property tax increase in 1 year. This program has been changed over the following years since it's been enacted. It started out in 1980 by having the state pay 50% of the increase. That was over a 10% increase in 1 year, with no minimum qualifying rebate and a maximum refund of $300. The program now provides a refund of up to 60% of the difference on the property tax increase of 12% or more, and provides up to a $1,000 refund. So what House File 700 would do would have the qualifying increase go back to the 10%. So if you saw a property tax spike in 1 year of more than 10%, you could then apply for up to 60% of the difference, up to $2,000 with this new bill. It keeps intact the calculation of that only the 60% of the increase. You know, over time, this bill has paid for 100% of that increase in that 1 year. It's paid for 50%. It's paid for 60%. It keeps the 60% that's been intact for a while, and then just says up to 60% of that increase in 1 year, you can get up to $2,000, and then the increase has to be 10% or more. There's charts in your packets that explain it probably better than I could. But what we do now know as members is that we've seen drastic rising property valuations on our homeowners over the last 2 years. I'm sure you have heard from constituents with the concerns on their property tax increases that they may be facing this year because of those valuations. This program is part of a larger package of property tax aids and credits that are in the toolbox of the committee, and I know you are looking at. Some of the other tools include LGA and CPA funding, and I want to thank the chair for taking up that mantle this year. Homestead exclusions, like you saw from Representative Norris' bills, renter's credit, our property tax refund program. What is unique about this tool is that it's not tied to income level like our homestead exclusion, property tax refund, and renter's credit. And it's not like our LGA program that does not include all cities. This is a program specifically focused on our community members that are seeing a larger than average property tax increase in 1 year. Chair Lislegard, members, there are letters of support in your packet, and you may also have someone signed up to testify, I'm not sure.
Thank you, we do. Paul Eager, Senior Vice President, Government Affairs, Minnesota Retailers Association. That's a pretty big title there, my friend.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Paul Egger. I'm Senior Vice President of Governmental Affairs for the Minnesota Realtors Association. I think I heard retailer, so you had me confused for a second.
Oh, they make money too.
We are a statewide business trade association with a little over 22,000 members working with buyers and sellers of all types of property every day. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of House File 700, which would modify the additional targeting property tax refund. And I'd also like to thank Representative Youakim for bringing this important bill forward. Our legislative agenda for the 2023 session includes support for improving, enhancing, and updating state homeowner property tax relief programs. And we appreciate you hearing not only this bill today, Mr. Chair, but all the other bills that you've discussed that are tools in the toolbox, to use the analogy that's come up. In particular, although we didn't sign up to testify in the interest of time, we support efforts to increase the property tax refund program as well as the homestead credit, homestead market value exclusion as well. Higher interest rates have certainly cooled the housing market off from where it had been in 2021 and 2022. Or 2020 and 2021, with sales down almost a third compared to 1 year ago. However, Minnesota continues to have a lack of adequate housing supply, putting upward pressure on home valuations. This happens in any market where demand is greater than the available supply. While home values have been on a steady upward trajectory over the past few years, COVID and the rise of working from home have caused uncertainty with respect to commercial property, particularly office space. And when those home values rise faster than other types of property, the property tax burden can shift more onto homeowners, putting pressure on family budgets and particularly those who are on a fixed income. House File 700 directs relief to homeowners who have large property tax increases from 1 year to the next. And again, Mr. Chair, Minnesota Realtors also supports those other important programs like the Homestead Credit State Refund Program and increasing the minimum and maximum market value thresholds for the homestead market value exclusion, which were addressed in other bills earlier on your agenda. And while we often talk about barriers to getting into homeownership, such as limited supply of homes or saving for a down payment, rising property taxes presents a barrier to sustainable homeownership for many, and House File 700 and changes to other important homeowners property tax relief programs you discussed today would help. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to testify? Okay, seeing none. Member questions? Seeing none, closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members of, Mr. Speaker, that sounds kind of.
Hey, I'll take that raise.
I just gave you a promotion.
We're just handing out promotions and demotions in some cases.
Gave you a promotion with a lot more stress. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and members for the discussion and your consideration of House File 700. This targeted program is really designed to protect homeowners in all of our communities from a huge one-year spike in property taxes. I would ask for your support as you consider your bills for your property tax division report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chair renews his motion that House File 700 be laid over for possible inclusion in the Property Tax Division report. It is laid over. Next meeting is scheduled for 2/22 at 10:30. Meeting adjourned.
Today was a bad school.